7 white boys and 1 locked steel door. That's the math I was handed, and my daughter was inside. June Bug didn't have to say much. I could see it in his eyes, sweat rolling down a man who don't scare easy, hat crushed in his fist like it owed him money. They got her near the river, he said. I didn't ask how, I didn't ask why. In this city, questions are for men who still believe in luck. I was standing on my terrace when he told me, high above Harlem. Whole neighborhood glowing like a circuit board under the night sky. From up there it looks peaceful, like nothing ugly could reach it. But I know better. Peace is just quiet before somebody makes a move. My chest fluttered again. That weak stutter doctors warned me about. Congestive heart failure, they called it. Gave me pills. Told me to slow down, slow down. I built this kingdom by moving first. Who? I asked. New biker crew, call themselves Iron Skulls, set up shop in an old garage off the west side. He hesitated. That told me the rest. They laughing, he added. That's when something inside me went still. Not loud, not rage, still. You can disrespect me, you can test my corners, you can even steal from me, but you don't laugh while you touch my blood. Inside the apartment, May was already crying before I walked through the door. A mother knows when the air changes. She grabbed my arm, call the police. I looked at her, calm, measured. The police, I said, will write a report. Paper don't stop wolves. I went to the closet, past the suits, past the silk. There's a panel back there most men never notice. You don't survive 40 years in Harlem without building compartments. I opened it. Guns stared back at me, heavy, practical, efficient, but guns are quick, and quick don't teach lessons. My hand moved deeper. I pulled out the blade, wrapped in black silk, balanced, patient. Gift from a Chinatown boss years back. A man who understood that sometimes justice needs to look a man in the eye. May whispered my name like it might pull me back from the edge. I'm not starting a war, I told her. I'm ending a misunderstanding. June Bug stepped forward. I'm rolling with you. No, I said. He didn't like that, but this wasn't business. If I rolled in heavy, sirens would follow, crossfire would follow, chaos would follow. And chaos don't care who it hits. If I don't come back, I told him, you lock this door and you don't open it for God himself. His jaw tightened. He nodded. That's loyalty. No speeches, just understanding. The elevator ride down felt longer than prison time. Every floor ding sounded like a countdown. My heart tapped out a rhythm I didn't trust. 1, 2, skip. I pressed a pill under my tongue. Hold together, I muttered to my own chest. We got work. The Cadillac started with that deep growl I like. Engine steady. Unlike me, I drove west. Harlem slid past my windows, corner boys, jazz leaking from club doors, women fanning themselves on stoops. They don't know when a storm is moving through their sky. I crossed 125th. Buildings turned to warehouses. Streetlights got thinner. The river smell crept in, rust and salt and secrets. Then I saw it, low brick building, windows blacked out. 1 yellow bulb over the door like a crooked halo. 7 motorcycles out front. 7, I parked across the street, left the engine running, sat there a moment. Inside, music thumped. Laughter spilled through the cracks. Laughter, I unwrapped the blade slowly. Let the silk fall onto the passenger seat. The steel caught the dashboard light and answered it. I stepped out of the car, didn't rush. Kings don't rush into traps. The steel door was cracked open. That told me something important. They weren't worried. I pushed it wider and stepped inside. Smoke, beer, grease, ignorance. 7 of them in the middle of the garage, denim vests, chains, knives flashing at their belts. Loud mouths. Loud music, and in the back corner, my daughter, dress torn, eyes wide, trying to fold herself smaller than she is. 1 tall blonde fool stood over her, grinning like he owned the night. The music cut when they saw me. Silence spread slow across the room. One of them laughed. Grandpa lost. They always start with disrespect, makes them feel tall. The blonde one turned, sizing me up, saw the gray hair, saw the suit jacket over house clothes, saw age. He didn't see the board. Place ain't open, he said. I didn't look at him. Elisha, I said softly. Her head snapped up. Recognition hit her face like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. Daddy. That word shifted the air. The blonde leader smiled wider. Oh, this sweet. He stepped toward me. 6 others followed his lead without thinking. That told me everything. He was the mouth, they were the echo. "I'm taking her," I said, simple, direct. The big one with a gut laughed and picked up a tire iron. Another swung a chain lazily. Blonde leader stepped close enough I could smell beer on his breath. "You ain't taking nothing." He turned his back on me to look at my daughter. Mistake number 1. I slid my thumb against the guard. Steel whispered. He half turned. Too late. The blade moved once, clean, precise. He blinked like he forgot something important. Then the red line opened. His knees buckled before his brain caught up. He hit the floor. Silence didn't fall this time, it shattered. And now 6 of them understood something their leader didn't. They hadn't trapped an old man. They had locked the door with me inside. For half a second, nobody moved. 6 men staring at the body of the one who used to give orders. That's the moment you measure a room. Fear travels faster than courage. The fat one with the tire iron roared first. Loud men always do. He charged like noise alone could fix what just happened. I didn't step back, I stepped in. When a man swings wide, he tells you his whole story. Shoulder tight, elbow stiff. No discipline, the iron came for my head. I shifted left, short step, minimal effort. The blade answered, one thrust, low under the ribs. His eyes went confused before the pain even registered. He dropped the iron, grabbed at his stomach like he could hold himself together. He couldn't. I pulled the steel free and let him fall. 4 seconds, 2 down. Now they spread out. That's when they realized it wasn't a scuffle, it was correction. The one with the chain started circling, swinging its slow metal links whispering through the smoky air. Another grabbed a sledgehammer from the wall. One skinny kid snapped a pool cue in half, hands shaking, and the one nearest my daughter. He reached for her arm, that's when the board shifted. He dragged her upright and pressed a serrated blade against her throat. "Drop it." He yelled, his voice cracked. Fear changes pitch. I stopped moving, 16 feet between us, knife against my child's skin. The other 3 crept closer now that I was still. Predators smell hesitation. They were wrong. I wasn't hesitating, I was calculating. My heart stumbled again. Hard this time. Thump, pause, thump. Not now. The chain swung once, twice, testing distance. "Drop it or she bleeds," the hostage-taker barked. A thin red line formed on her neck. That line erased whatever was left of Ellsworth Johnson. What stood there now was something colder. "You don't want to do that," I told him, calm. "Even when you speak soft, men lean in." He pressed the blade harder. I lowered the sword slowly, placed it on the concrete, let the sound echo, steel on stone. The men relaxed, just a little, that's all it takes. "Kick it over," he ordered. Instead, I nudged the scabbard with my foot. It flipped into the air. Eyes followed it, that's human nature. In that same breath I moved, low, fast, straight through his knees. My shoulder hit bone, his grip loosened. The knife flew. My daughter dropped and crawled away. We hit the ground tangled. I drove my fist into his throat once, twice. No wasted motion. Boot struck my ribs from the side, a wrench cracked across my back. Pain flared white, my lungs emptied. I rolled, grabbed an ankle, twisted. One more body down, up on my feet again. Breathing ragged, 4 left. The chain came next. He swung for my legs. I jumped just enough. Link smashed into a workbench in a shower of sparks. I closed distance before he could reset. Flat of the blade across his temple, he folded. 3 left. The one with the sledgehammer roared and charged. Big man, heavy steps, counting on size. That hammer could break concrete, so I let him commit. Waited until the weapon started down, stepped aside. It smashed the floor where I'd been. Before he could recover, I drove the pommel of the sword into his face. Cartilage gave way with a wet crunch. He staggered blind. I turned the blade and cut behind his knees. Quick, efficient. He collapsed screaming, 2 left standing. The skinny kid and the wrench man, both breathing like hunted animals. They rushed together, better than alone. The wrench came high, I caught his wrist. Redirected, elbow into his chest. Air left him, heel to his knee. He dropped. The skinny kid lunged with the jagged cue. Too slow. He slashed my arm on the way in, deep enough to burn. I grabbed his shirt and pulled him close, forehead to nose, bone on bone. He crumpled, blood pouring between his fingers. Silence again, except for groaning, and my own breathing. The man who had held my daughter was crawling toward the fallen knife. I kicked it away, placed the blade tip under his chin. "Look at them," I said. He looked. Bodies scattered across oil-stained concrete. "Understand something," I continued. "You walked into my city, you laughed, you touched what belongs to me." He started crying, grown man, crying. "I'm leaving one of you breathing," I told him. His eyes widened. "Dead men don't carry messages." I leaned closer so he could feel my breath. "You're going to tell everyone what happened here. You're going to say my name correctly, and you're going to say it with respect." He nodded so fast I thought his neck might snap. I stepped back. "Elisha." She came out slow from behind the tires, shaking, dust on her face, tears cutting clean lines down her cheeks. I sheathed the sword, sharp click, final. She ran into me. I wrapped one arm around her and held tight. "It's over," I told her, but my heart wasn't listening. It was racing wild now, erratic, dangerous. We walked toward the door. Behind us, groans, whimpers, one man sobbing. I didn't look back. But as we stepped into the night air, I felt something shift. Not in that garage, in the city. Because violence like that doesn't disappear, it echoes. And echoes attract attention. Somebody heard something. Somebody saw something. And somewhere between the river and Harlem, blue lights were already turning in our direction. By the time I slid behind the wheel, the adrenaline was draining out of me like water from a cracked glass. That's the problem with fury. It borrows from tomorrow. Elisha curled into the passenger seat, shaking. I started the engine slow this time. No sudden moves, no screeching tires. You draw less attention when you look like you belong. In the rearview mirror, that garage sat quiet, too quiet, but quiet don't mean clean. Somebody in there would crawl to a phone, somebody would dial. Sirens were already whispering in the distance. I eased onto the road, didn't speed. Speed is guilt. My arm burned where the wood caught me. Blood soaked into the sleeve of my jacket. Warm, sticky, honest. My chest tightened again, harder. The flutter turned into a hammer, thump. Thump, pause, thump. I reached into my pocket without taking my eyes off the road. Pill bottle, tiny white mercy, hands shaking. Got it under my tongue. "Daddy," Elisha's voice was small, "I'm here." "I'm sorry." "No," I said, "you're not." Silence filled the car except for the engine and her quiet sobbing. Up ahead, blue lights flickered at an intersection. Police. 2 cruisers rolling slow, scanning. Not random, not this far west. Somebody talked faster than I thought. I turned 1 block early. Casual, signal on, never let them see you adjust. We rolled through side streets. Industrial buildings giving way to apartment blocks again. The smell of the river fading. In the mirror, the cruisers kept going straight. For now. But that garage was a crime scene. Bodies, blood. A story too loud to ignore. And the only name they were going to hear was mine. You don't spill that much red in New York without politics following. Elisha shifted beside me. "They said you were old," she whispered. "They kept saying that." I almost smiled. "Men like that," I told her, "they mistake quiet for weak." She looked at my arm. "That's not weak." The pain was spreading now, from my arm into my shoulder, into my chest. Jaw tightening, sweat breaking cold across my forehead. Not good at all. We hit 125th Street, back in my territory, streetlights brighter, people outside, music drifting from a club door, life continuing like nothing happened. That's the thing about Harlem. It absorbs violence like rain, but I could feel something else in the air. Eyes, word travels before the police do. A black Cadillac coming from the riverside at this hour. Somebody on a stoop noticed. Somebody would ask. I pulled into Lenox Terrace. June Bug was already in the lobby. He must have been pacing a groove into that marble floor. He saw the blood on the door before I even stepped out. "Boss." "Take her upstairs," I said. He opened the passenger side first. That's loyalty. Always protect the priority. Elisha clung to him. "He came alone," she kept saying. "They had chains, they had." "Upstairs," I repeated. My legs felt heavier than they should. Elevator ride up felt longer than the one down. My vision blurred at the edges. June Bug kept glancing at me. "You gray," he muttered. "I'm fine." Lie, when the doors opened, May was already there. She saw Elisha first. That sound she made. That's a sound only mothers and wounded animals know how to make. They held each other. Then she looked at me and she didn't cry. She studied me, blood-torn jacket, pale face. "Take her to her room," she told June Bug. He nodded and disappeared down the hall with Elisha. May stepped closer. "You stubborn man," she whispered. I tried to answer. Instead, my knees dipped, just slightly. She caught it. Strong woman, stronger than most men I know. She guided me to a chair before I hit the floor. "What did you do?" she asked quietly while peeling the jacket off my shoulders. "What I had to." She cleaned the cut on my arm without flinching. Deep, but manageable. It wasn't the arm she was worried about. She pressed her hand against my chest. My heart was beating like it was trying to escape. "Ellsworth." "It'll hold," I said, but the room tilted sideways. For a second the walls felt too far away. I grabbed the edge of the chair, focused. Breathe in, breathe out. I've walked through riots, prison yards, gunfire, but this was my own body negotiating terms. June Bug came back out. She's asleep, exhausted. Good, one thing secured. But then he looked at me, really looked. "Boss, police just rolled past outside." May froze. I didn't. Of course they did. Bodies by the river don't stay secret. Did they stop? I asked. "No, just cruising." For now, but somebody survived in that garage. Somebody who knows my face. And if he talks to the wrong detective, this becomes bigger than punishment. This becomes pressure, political pressure, press pressure. And I'm not 25 anymore. I stood up slowly. The pain in my chest eased to a dull squeeze. Not gone, just waiting. I walked to the balcony doors and stepped outside. Harlem stretched below me. My Harlem, lights glowing. Sirens somewhere distant, life moving. But I could feel the board shifting again. The iron skulls weren't just some river trash. They had backing. Nobody moves into New York without somebody letting them, which means tonight. I didn't just cut down bikers, I cut into somebody else's investment. And investors don't laugh when you ruin their property. They retaliate. I rested both hands on the railing, breathing slow, thinking 3 moves ahead. Behind me, May stepped out quietly. "They laughed at her," she said. I nodded. "Yes." She leaned her head against my back. "And now?" I looked out over the city. "Now," I said softly, "we see who thinks they can laugh at me." Because somewhere in this town, a bigger man just heard his crew got dismantled by an old king with a blade. And men like that don't call the police. They call for payback. By midnight, the city knew. Not the newspapers, not the politicians, the streets. That's the only press that matters. Phone rang once around 12:30. June Bug answered, didn't say much, just listened. When he hung up, he looked at me different. "Rivers crawling with uniforms," he said. "Ambulances, crime scene tape. They pulled 2 bodies out already. One ain't breathing." I nodded, "and the rest?" "Hospital or gone." "Gone?" That meant at least one of them walked away under his own power. Good. Fear needs legs. But here's the part people don't understand. When you make a statement that loud, it don't just scare your enemies. It challenges whoever thinks they outrank you. And I knew those bikers weren't independent. Nobody that loud operates without somebody higher collecting rent. At 1:15 a.m. the second call came, not on the house line, on the private one. Only a handful of men had that number. June Bug picked it up, listened, then covered the receiver. "It's Sal," he said. "Salvatore Caruso. Old school Italian money. Controlled shipping docks, trucking routes, and half the warehouses along the Hudson." I took the phone. "Evening," I said. Silence on the other end, controlled breathing. A man choosing his words. "You been busy," Sal finally said. "I handled something," I replied. "You handled my something." There it was. I leaned back in the chair. "Your boys," I asked calmly, "my investment." Interesting choice of word. "They were sloppy," I said. "Sloppy costs." Sal exhaled through his nose. "You killed one of my earners." "He wasn't earning," I said. "He was hunting." Pause, longer this time. "You walked into a garage and butchered 6 white boys," Sal continued. "Police are sniffing. Press is going to catch wind. That heat touches docks, it touches me." "And your heat touched my house first," I answered. "They grabbed my daughter." Silence again, this one heavier. Is that true? He asked. You think I drive across town for sport? Sal knew me long enough to understand something. I don't posture. When I move, it's final. You should have called me, he said. No, I replied. If I called you, we'd be negotiating. And now we're discussing respect. Another pause, then a shift in tone. What do you want? Sal asked. There it is. That's when you know a man is thinking survival, not revenge. I want your boys out of Harlem, I said. All of them, every patch, every bike, gone by sunrise. That's territory I paid for. You paid for warehouse space, I corrected. You didn't pay for my streets. His breathing tightened. You're pushing, he warned. I'm protecting, I answered. And if you push back, you better push all the way, because halfway won't work. Dead silence, the kind that stretches thin like piano wire, finally. You got until morning, Sal said. After that, we talk again. The line clicked. Junebug looked at me. Well, they're leaving, I said, or we're escalating. He nodded slow. You good for that kind of war? There's the real question. My chest throbbed dull and steady now. The earlier storm had calmed, but I could feel weakness underneath. Not gone, waiting. I don't plan wars I can't win, I said, but truth, this wouldn't be a street fight. This would be supply lines, alliances, pressure from City Hall, pressure from federal offices who've been waiting for an excuse to squeeze me again. And tonight gave them headlines. Down below, a patrol car idled too long in front of the building. That wasn't random. Somebody already whispered my name to a detective. The survivor. Good. Let him talk. Let him describe the blade, the suit, the calm. Legends move faster than paperwork. But legends also attract hunters. I stepped back out onto the balcony. Wind cooler now, Harlem quieter. But under that quiet, tension coiled. If Sal pulls his crew out by sunrise, this ends clean. If he doesn't, I'll have Italians testing my corners by the weekend, and cops using it as leverage, and my heart doesn't have room for long campaigns anymore. Behind me, May's voice was steady. You thinking about war? I'm thinking about prevention. She walked up beside me. You saved her, she said. That's enough for one night. Maybe for her, not for the men who lost money, not for the ones who think age makes me soft. Down on the street, the patrol car finally pulled off. Temporary. Everything in this city is temporary. Respect, peace, even power. I looked east toward the river. By sunrise, I'd know if Sal understood the lesson. Because if one single motorcycle was still parked west of 125th, that means he chose pride over profit. And pride gets men buried. Sunrise came slow. Harlem don't wake up gentle. It stretches, yawns, checks its pockets. I didn't sleep. Didn't need to. When you make a move like that, you stay awake long enough to see the ripple. By 6:10 a.m., Junebug was already downstairs. Watching, counting. At 6:32, my phone rang. One ring. That was our signal. I answered without speaking. They rolling out, Junebug said quietly. Flatbeds, 2 trucks. Bikes loaded, patches coming off. Good. Sal chose money over ego, smart man. Anybody staying behind? I asked. Not a soul. I hung up. That's how power works when it's understood. No press conference. No apology, just movement. But here's what most men miss. When one predator backs down, others start measuring you. Around 9 a.m., I got a knock at the door, not police. Worse. Councilman Richard Halpern, white suit. Too much cologne, smile like a bank loan. He didn't come alone. 2 detectives behind him, not uniform, plain clothes. Invitation without paperwork. Morning, Mr. Johnson, Halpern said. Quite a night in the neighborhood. I let him in. May didn't like it, but she understood something important. You don't shut doors on politics. We sat in the living room. Detectives didn't sit. They scanned. Terrible thing by the river, Halpern continued. Young men butchered. Tragic, I replied evenly. One detective stepped forward. We've got a witness, he said. Of course you do. He described an older gentleman, gray hair, suit jacket. I didn't blink. You'd be surprised how many older gentlemen wear suits, I said. The detective didn't smile. Halpern cut in smooth. Now nobody is accusing anyone, but tensions are high. Italians are making calls. Business leaders are concerned. Concerned, that word means pressure. You want something, I said. Halpern smiled. Just stability. Translation, keep it quiet. Your biker friends are gone, I told him. No more tension. For now, he said, but retaliation creates headlines. Headlines create investigations. There it is. They didn't come to arrest me. They came to leash me. You have a heart condition, Mr. Johnson, the other detective added casually. Be unfortunate if stress aggravated that. Subtle threat, not bullets, bureaucracy. I leaned forward slowly. You walked into my home, I said softly. You imply things. You wave health records in my face. Let's not confuse courtesy for weakness. The room shifted. Halpern cleared his throat. We're just asking for cooperation. You'll have peace, I said, because I want peace. True, war costs too much now. They stood. Halpern paused at the door. Sometimes legends outlive their usefulness, he said lightly. And sometimes, I replied, legends become institutions. He didn't like that. They left. Door closed. June Bug stepped out from the hallway. You think they'll push? Not today, I said. But here's the part that keeps a king awake. It was Sal. It wasn't the bikers. It wasn't even the police. It was the message. Last night proved something dangerous. I can still move. And when men realize the old lion still has teeth, they either submit or they form a pack. By afternoon, whispers started. Other crews testing small corners. One dice game robbed in Sugar Hill. One numbers runner pressed in Spanish Harlem. Not random, probing, testing response time. That's how wars begin, small, curious. I stood back on my balcony as the sun dipped low again. Same skyline, different air. Elisha rested inside, safe. May watch me from the doorway. You stopped one storm, she said. Yes. But others are gathering. I nodded. Because somewhere in this city, a rival boss just saw Sal step back, and he's thinking what every ambitious man thinks when the throne shakes even a little. Is it time? My heart thudded heavy. Not erratic, just tired. I've ruled Harlem with strategy, not noise. But now I could feel the season changing, and seasons don't ask permission. They arrive. By nightfall, I'd know who was bold enough to step forward. Because the next knock on my door won't be political, it'll be personal. Night didn't knock, it knocked hard. 10:47 p.m. 3 sharp hits on the door downstairs, not frantic, not hesitant, deliberate. June Bug checked the camera feed from the security monitor. He froze. Dante Reyes, he said quietly. That name carried weight. Young, ambitious, ruthless. Ran most of Spanish Harlem's narcotics flow. Smart enough to smile in public, cruel enough to carve in private. I walked downstairs myself. If a man comes to your door instead of sending shooters, that means he wants conversation, or a warning delivered face to face. I opened the door. Mid-30s, tailored charcoal suit. No tie. Thin scar under his left eye like punctuation. 2 men stood behind him, stayed on the sidewalk. Respect. Mr. Johnson, Dante said smoothly. Didn't want to call. Calling leaves records, I replied. Coming leaves witnesses. A faint smile. You made waves last night. So I've been told. He stepped inside when I moved aside. Confident, not careless. May stayed upstairs, good. We sat across from each other. You embarrassed Sal, Dante said plainly. I corrected behavior. Same thing in this city. He leaned forward. When Italians retreat, space opens. Space creates opportunity. There it is. Ambition never wastes oxygen. And you think that space belongs to you? I asked. I think Harlem's changing, he said. You kept it structured, predictable, but predictable becomes stagnant. Young men love that word, stagnant. I kept it stable, I corrected. Stable for who? That one landed because he wasn't wrong. The old system fed certain families, certain pipelines. Younger crews wanted more. You here to challenge me? I asked calmly. No, Dante said. I'm here to propose evolution. Dangerous word. He placed a thin folder on the table, inside. Maps, routes, distribution overlays. He'd been studying territory. You don't have the stamina for street wars anymore, he said without malice. Everybody knows about the hospital scare last year. So the whispers travel far. I'm offering partnership, he continued. You remain figurehead, political insulation. I modernize operations. Translation. You sit in the chair, I hold the power. And if I decline, I asked. Dante met my eyes. Then younger men assume you're holding the throne out of nostalgia. Silence stretched. June Bug shifted subtly behind the wall. I raised a hand. Stay. You mistake me, I said softly. I don't hold anything out of nostalgia. Dante's expression didn't change, but his men outside stiffened slightly. You removed Sal's people, he continued. That creates a vacuum. Vacuums get filled. By invitation, I replied. Not by assumption. He stood. You have 48 hours, he said, to consider a future that includes me. And if I say no? He adjusted his cuffs. Then the streets decide. That's not a threat. That's a forecast. He walked to the door, paused. Respectfully, Mr. Johnson, legends fade. I smiled. Only if they stop adapting. He left, door closed. June Bug exhaled slow. He's organizing, he said. Been building quiet for months. I know. That's the truth, I knew, but knowing and acting are different things. Upstairs, May waited. He wants your chair, she said after I explained. No, I corrected. He wants the future. And you? I looked out toward the river again, the same river that washed red last night. I want control, I said, because control prevents chaos. Control requires strength, and strength requires something my heart may not give me forever. 48 hours. That's not negotiation time. That's mobilization time. If I back him, I stay alive longer. If I refuse, I test whether loyalty still outweighs ambition in this neighborhood. And the most dangerous enemy isn't the loud one. It's the one who thinks he's inevitable. By midnight tomorrow, I'll know which Harlem believes in. The legend or the future. I didn't wait 48 hours. When a young wolf tells you he'll give you 2 days to decide your own future, what he's really saying is he's already decided it. By morning, I had answers, not from spies, from silence. 3 of my longtime corner captains didn't check in. 2 more sent messages instead of showing up in person. That's how you measure loyalty, distance. By noon, I called a meeting, not at the house, at the old Apollo storage building on 126th. Neutral ground. If Dante wanted evolution, we'd discuss it in daylight. He arrived first. Confident again, different suit. Navy this time, no extra men, interesting. You move fast, he said. I move before momentum builds, I replied. One by one, the captains filtered in. Faces I'd known 20 years. Faces I'd bilaid out, fed families of protected, and now, uncertain. That's the word that kills empires, uncertainty. I didn't sit at the head of the table, I stood. You all know why we're here, I said. Last night changed balance. This man thinks it's time for restructuring. Dante didn't interrupt, smart. I looked around the room. Anybody here feel like I've left them starving? No one spoke. Anybody feel unprotected? Still nothing. Then Dante spoke calmly. This isn't about hunger, he said. It's about scale. He walked to the table, laid out updated numbers. New supply chains, crypto laundering routes, offshore holds. Modern, efficient, aggressive. You built an empire on discipline, Dante said to me. I can double it with technology. Some of the younger captains leaned in. That's what he was counting on, speed, expansion, more money, but more money invites more spotlight. You double the size, I said evenly, you double the heat. We're already under heat, he countered. You carved up 6 bikers, that attention isn't shrinking. A few eyes flicked to me, there it is, fear disguised as logic. I stepped closer to Dante. You think this city tolerates sudden growth? I asked quietly. You think federal task forces don't monitor spikes? He didn't flinch. I think slow decline is worse. And that line hit harder than he intended, because decline is the unspoken fear of every aging ruler. I turned to the room. Here's the truth. Expansion brings war. War brings indictments. Indictments bring RICO. You all ready for that? Silence. Dante's jaw tightened slightly. I wasn't attacking him. I was attacking the fantasy. Then I said something that surprised even June Bug. I'll step back. The room snapped to attention. Dante blinked once. I'll step back from daily control, I continued, but not from oversight. Now Dante understood. I wasn't refusing evolution. I was redefining it. You modernize distribution, I said, but no reckless territory grabs, no flashy violence, no doubling footprint in 6 months. Dante studied me carefully, and if growth stalls, he asked. It won't, I said, because I'll open doors you can't. Political insulation, judicial favors, old debts owed, things youth can't buy. The captains began nodding, stability with expansion, measured, controlled. Dante saw the room shifting, he adjusted quickly. Co-leadership, he said. No, I replied calmly, structure. He searched my face for weakness. Didn't find it because this wasn't surrender. It was succession without abdication. Finally, Dante extended his hand. 6 months, he said. We evaluate. I shook it firm. 6 months. The room exhaled. Meeting ended. Back home, May watched me carefully. You gave him what he wanted, she said. No, I answered. I gave him responsibility. Big difference. Ambition is loud. Responsibility is heavy. If he succeeds under structure, Harlem thrives. If he overreaches, the heat burns him first, and I remain the stabilizer. But here's the quiet truth sitting under all of it. I felt tired walking up the stairs. Not weak, just aware. Time doesn't lose battles, it waits. Tonight the streets are calm. Sal stayed quiet. Dante's people aren't moving recklessly. The captains feel reassured for now. But power shifted today, not violently, strategically. And the most dangerous phase of any empire is transition, because loyalty during strength is easy. Loyalty during evolution, that's where betrayals grow. 6 months, that's the clock. And in 6 months, Harlem will either enter a new era peacefully, or I'll learn that I just trained the man who plans to bury me. 6 months don't pass loudly. They erode, quiet, gradual, like water against stone, and I felt every week of it. Dante kept his word at first. No flashy moves, no unnecessary blood. He modernized quietly, shifted cash flow into digital fronts, tightened courier rotations, rerouted supply through smaller, less predictable pipelines. Arrests dropped, profits climbed. Even I had to admit it. He was good, too good. That's the thing about capable successors. You start wondering if you stayed too long. By month 3, the younger crews stopped calling me first. They called him. By month 4, City Hall inquiries slowed, not because I answered them, because Dante anticipated them. By month 5, I realized something subtle. Respect hadn't disappeared, it had repositioned. When I walked the avenue, people still nodded, but when problems needed solving, they looked for him. That's not betrayal, that's momentum. One evening in late autumn, I stood on the balcony again. Cold air this time, chest tight, not from rage, from reality. June Bug stepped beside me. You built this to last, he said. Empires don't last, I replied. Structures do. He glanced at me. You thinking about stepping down? I'm thinking about timing. Because stepping down too late turns legacy into liability, and stepping down too early invites erasure. Inside, May was laughing with Elisha. That sound mattered more than territory maps now. I had secured safety, stability, the rest. Ego, the real test came in month 6. Federal task force raided a warehouse in Queens. Not ours, Dante's new affiliate, 3 arrests. Media coverage, they were probing the modernization he'd introduced. Expansion always leaves fingerprints. He came to the house that night, alone. No swagger this time. They're watching digital transfers, he said, closer than expected. I poured him a drink, didn't speak right away, let him sit in the weight of it. This is what scale brings, I said calmly. I accounted for risk. You accounted for profit, I corrected. He didn't argue, that's growth. What would you have done? He asked, not challenging, learning. I looked at him carefully. You move fast when you're climbing, I said. But once you reach the top, your job isn't to climb anymore. It's to remain, he finished. Now he understood. Power isn't about acceleration, it's about endurance. He exhaled slowly. I don't want a war, he said. Neither did I, and that's when I knew. He wasn't trying to bury me anymore. He was trying to prove himself worthy of what I built. Big difference. The next morning I called the captains. Short meeting, no speeches. Effective immediately, I said. Dante oversees operations fully. A few surprised looks. Dante stayed still. But, I continued, all strategic expansion routes clear through me. Structure, guardrails, insurance. I looked at Dante. You wanted evolution, I said. Now you carry it. He nodded once, respectful. Real. That night, for the first time in months, I didn't stand on the balcony. I sat inside, with May, with my daughter. The city kept moving without me directing every breath. And here's the truth most kings never admit. Relief feels better than dominance. Harlem didn't need me to swing blades anymore. It needed me to know when to put them down. Outside, somewhere in the distance, a motorcycle roared past, but it didn't linger, just passed through, like storms do, like seasons do, like men do, and for the first time in a long while. My heart felt steady, not because I won, but because I chose the right moment not to fight. Winter came early that year, not with snow, with subpoenas. It started quiet. 2 financial institutions flagged unusual transaction clusters. Then a sealed indictment in Brooklyn. Then a federal press conference that didn't name names but described patterns. Patterns we recognized. Dante came to see me before the news cycle finished spinning. No panic this time, just clarity. They're building Rico, he said. I know. They're not coming at street level. They never do. He sat across from me in the same chair where months ago he tried to outgrow me. Different energy now, measured. They're mapping the digital transitions, he continued. The modernization made us efficient. It also made us visible. Efficiency always leaves data. Data leaves trails. You regret it? I asked. He shook his head. No, but I underestimated how quickly they'd adapt. I leaned back slowly. That's the mistake youth makes. You think the old hunters are slow. They're not slow, they're patient. Silence settled between us, not tense, strategic. They'll try to flip someone, Dante said, mid-level, somebody scared. They won't start with you, I said. You're too obvious. They'll start with someone who thinks they're invisible. Exactly. And invisibility is the most dangerous illusion in organized systems. 2 weeks later it happened. One of the younger captains, Luis Mendez, picked up on tax fraud. Minor charge, too minor. He was out in 6 hours, too fast. Dante called me immediately. He talked, he said flatly. Not yet, I replied, but he will. Fear works on a clock. The feds don't rush. They isolate. Then they offer futures, and futures are powerful bait. That night I asked Dante to walk with me. No security, just the avenue. Harlem in winter has a different sound, quieter, footsteps sharper. You know what saves organizations? I asked him. Loyalty. No. He looked at me. Predictability, I said. If your people know the rules never change, they don't panic. He understood immediately. We couldn't appear reactive. We couldn't purge Lewis. That would confirm suspicion. We had to remain steady. Shift nothing, I said. Let them chase smoke. And if he flips, then we adapt. That word again, adapt. But adaptation now meant something different. It didn't mean expansion. It meant contraction. Over the next month, we quietly reduced exposure, scaled back digital transfers, reintroduced analog buffers, moved certain responsibilities to shell structures 3 layers deep. No noise, no fear, just recalibration. Dante handled it well, better than I expected. He consulted instead of improvising, delegated instead of dominating. That's leadership. Then the surprise came, not from the feds, from Salvatore Caruso requested a meeting, public place. Afternoon, neutral. I hadn't seen him since the biker night. We met at a quiet Italian restaurant in Little Italy. He looked older. I probably did too. You survived the modernization wave, he said after pleasantries. We adjusted. He nodded. They're circling all of us. Digital's easier to map. I warned Dante. And he listened, Sal said. That wasn't a question. No, I replied. He learned. Sal smiled faintly. Good. This city's changing. Old rivalries don't protect against federal algorithms. Funny word coming from him. Algorithms. We spoke plainly after that. No threats. No territory talk, just reality. They want headlines, Sal said. If one of us falls loud, they squeeze the rest harder. He was proposing something subtle, stability pact, not alliance, alignment. I considered it carefully. 6 months ago, pride would have complicated that conversation. Now, pragmatism ruled. We keep things quiet, I said. No flashy retaliation, no expansion grabs. Sal nodded once, agreed. We shook hands. Older lions recognizing the jungle had new hunters. Back home, Dante waited. You trust him? He asked. No, I said. I trust mutual self-interest. Close enough. Weeks passed. Lewis didn't flip. At least not loudly. The task force momentum slowed. No indictments. No raids, pressure remained but unfocused. That's a win, not victory, but survival. One evening, months later, I sat with May again. The city outside moved without needing my constant intervention. Dante was running operations smoothly, profits steady, heat manageable. For the first time, I wasn't necessary every hour. And that's when it hit me. Legacy isn't control, it's continuity. I didn't need to be feared anymore. I needed to be remembered as the man who knew when to evolve. My heart still thudded slower than it used to, but steady. And steady builds longer than force ever could. Outside, Harlem breathed, not tense, not erupting, balanced. The legend didn't end, it transformed. And transformation, if done right, is quieter than war but far more powerful. It came at 5:12 a.m., not sirens, not shouting, a coordinated silence. 3 locations hit at once, Queens, Bronx, Newark. By 6:03 my phone rang. Donnie didn't say hello, they unsealed. How bad? RICO conspiracy, financial structuring, wire fraud, their naming shell tiers. Not the top, not yet, smart. You build upward. By 7:00 a.m., cable news had it running on a loop. Multi-state narcotics and financial enterprise dismantled. Dismantled, they love that word, makes it sound finished. It never is. Dante arrived within the hour, no suit today, just a coat. You're not named, he said. Neither am I. Yet, I replied, he nodded. They grabbed 2 mid-tier managers. Lewis wasn't one of them. Interesting. So Lewis either stayed quiet, or they were saving him. I watched Dante carefully. No panic, but tension in the jaw. This is my architecture they're tracing, he said. Yes. I can absorb it. No. He looked up. You don't absorb federal RICO, I continued. You redirect narrative. He understood. If this looked like rogue affiliates operating outside central control, heat concentrates lower. If it looks structured, then prosecutors climb. By noon, my lawyer had already made 2 quiet calls. Old favors, old judges, nothing illegal, just pressure about overreach and jurisdictional ambiguity. Politics slows prosecutors, time weakens headlines, but only if no one panics. That evening, the real blow landed. One of the arrested managers requested a proffer session. Voluntary, that's worse than flipping under duress. That means negotiation. Dante closed his eyes when he heard. Who? Marquez. He swore under his breath. Marquez knew logistics. He didn't know top structure, but he knew enough to create smoke. And smoke invites digging. I asked Dante something then. Can you survive prison? He stared at me. That's not where this is going. It's a question. He hesitated. I could. Good, I said calmly, because leadership means being ready to. That's the part no one romanticizes. Power is accepting exposure. By day 3, the proffer leaked to the press. Emerging Harlem syndicate. Emerging, they were painting Dante as the architect, separating him from me, classic wedge strategy. Younger, flashier, easier headline. He came that night again, tired now. They're isolating me, he said. Yes. They want me visible. Yes. Silence then. If I step forward publicly, legitimize businesses, create distance, it might shield the rest. It was a calculated sacrifice, partial visibility to prevent deeper digging. He was thinking long-term, good, but incomplete. They want you to step forward, I said, because visibility locks narrative. So what do we do? I stood slowly, chest tight but steady. We do nothing dramatic. He frowned. They're building momentum. Momentum burns fast, I replied. Scandals without arrests at the top lose oxygen. He paced once. This is my fault. No, I corrected. It's the cost of evolution. He stopped, and then he said something I hadn't expected. If they name you, I'll take structural responsibility. I studied him carefully. That wasn't ambition talking. That was loyalty, real loyalty, earned. You won't need to, I said, because I already saw the board differently. The feds had moved, but not decisively. They were testing cooperation levels, testing fractures, and so far. They hadn't found one. Weeks passed. Marquez's proffer didn't produce indictments at the top. Evidence thin. Digital trails rerouted months ago. Too many analog gaps. Task force funding quietly shifted toward another target, louder, sloppier, easier press. The wave crested, then began to fall, not gone, just redirected. One night Dante stood beside me on the balcony again. Same skyline, different phase. I thought this was the end, he admitted. No, I said. This was the audit. He nodded slowly. They'll be back. Of course. We watched the city breathe. He glanced at me. You ever afraid? I considered it honestly. Yes. He looked surprised. But fear is information, I added. It tells you where to reinforce. He smiled faintly. I'm glad you didn't bury me when you had the chance. I didn't need to, I said, because here's the truth neither of us spoke out loud. The empire no longer sat on one man's shoulders, it distributed weight, and distributed weight survives pressure. My heart beat steady in the cold air, older, slower, but still mine. The feds made their move, we adapted, and in this city. Adaptation is victory. It didn't happen during a raid, didn't happen during a meeting, didn't even happen during stress. It happened on a Tuesday, quiet, unremarkable. I was pouring coffee when the cup slipped from my hand, not dropped, slipped, like my fingers forgot the instruction. The sound of porcelain breaking felt distant. May turned from the stove. Are you? That's all she got out before the room tilted. Not spinning, tilting. My chest didn't explode in pain, it compressed, like a fist slowly closing from the inside. I remember thinking something strange. So this is how it ends. Not in war, in the kitchen, then nothing. I woke up to white ceilings, hospital white, monitors humming, air filtered and too clean, May sitting beside me, eyes swollen but steady. You scared me, she said quietly. I tried to sit up. Bad idea. The cardiologist came in 20 minutes later. Professional calm. Severe arrhythmia, he said. You were minutes from cardiac arrest. Minutes, all those years navigating bullets, prosecutors, rivalries. And it was timing inside my own chest that nearly ended me. You need surgery, he continued. Pacemaker implantation, immediately. No drama in his voice, just inevitability. Dante arrived that afternoon. He stood at the foot of the bed, not as a successor, not as a partner, as a son might. I've got everything, he said. I know. No shifts, no panic, no unusual movement. Good, he was thinking correctly. Weakness invites predators, but visible chaos invites investigations. You don't come here again, I told him. He frowned. They'll watch hospital visits, I said. Optics matter. He understood. You rest, he said. I almost laughed. Rest. Men like me don't rest. We transition. Surgery went smoothly, that's what they said. Pacemaker installed. Rhythm stabilized, but something changes when you feel machinery regulating your survival. It humbles you, not emotionally, structurally. I wasn't invincible, I wasn't inevitable, I was maintained. And maintenance has limits. Recovery forced stillness. Weeks at home. No balcony pacing. No late-night strategy session. Just time and observation. Dante handled operations without disruption. Sal remained quiet. The feds shifted attention elsewhere. The city continued breathing, without me directing it. That realization could wound a proud man. It didn't wound me. It clarified something. I had built continuity, not dependency. That's the difference between ego and leadership. One evening during recovery, Dante sat across from me again. You need to formalize it, he said carefully. Formalize what? Succession. There it was, not a power grab, a safeguard. If something happened suddenly, the vacuum would be dangerous. He was right. I'll make it official, I said, not stepping away entirely, but codifying structure. Clear chain, clear authority. No ambiguity. Ambiguity breeds war. A month later, we gathered the captains again. Same warehouse. Different energy. I didn't stand. I remained seated. Subtle message. Effective immediately, I said, voice steady but slower than before. Dante holds operational authority in full. No surprise in the room, that was important. This isn't temporary, I continued. It's structural. Dante didn't smile, he nodded. Serious, responsible. Any disputes, I added, come to him first, not me. That's how you shift gravity, deliberately, without rupture. That night alone with May, I felt something unexpected, peace. Not because I was done, but because I had chosen the timing. Most men in power wait too long, they collapse before they transition. I nearly did, but nearly is not the same as too late. Weeks passed. The pacemaker clicked quietly beneath my ribs, a reminder not of weakness, of survival. I still advised, still watched, but I no longer carried. And Dante. He didn't overreach, didn't accelerate recklessly, he learned balance. That was the real victory, not territory, not profit, balance. One cold evening I stepped onto the balcony again, slowly, carefully. The skyline looked the same, but I didn't feel responsible for holding it up anymore. That's freedom most powerful men never taste. My heart beat steady, assisted, but steady, and I understood something final. Legends don't die when they lose control. They endure when they know exactly when to release it. Harlem changed, not all at once, not with gunfire, with glass. New condos where old brick used to sweat. Cafes where numbers runners once leaned against hydrants. Yoga studios across from barbershops that survived 3 generations. Gentrification did what rival crews never could. It rewrote the landscape. I was older now, slower. The pacemaker had been replaced once already. Dante ran everything, and he ran it differently. Cleaner fronts, fewer street-level risks, more legitimate overlap. Real estate, logistics, consulting shells that looked like ambition instead of intimidation. Violence, minimal heat, manageable, profit strong. But profit wasn't the real measurement anymore. Stability was. We didn't lose to rivals. We didn't fall to Rico. We adapted to capitalism. That's the part nobody romanticizes. The streets don't disappear. They formalize. Dante visited every Sunday. No entourage, no ceremony, just conversation. He'd bring updates, but less frequently now, because he didn't need approval, he needed perspective. Big difference. You ever miss it? He asked one evening. The edge. I said. He nodded. I thought about it honestly. No, I answered. I miss the clarity. War simplifies choices. Peace complicates them. He understood. Sal passed away 3 years earlier. Heart failure, quiet funeral, old guard fading. A few younger bosses tried noise in other boroughs. They burned fast. Dante didn't bite. That restraint kept him alive. And then one autumn afternoon, the real test came. Not law enforcement, not rivals. City council rezoning initiative. Major redevelopment plan. If passed, it would disrupt 3 of Dante's key property pipelines. Legally, cleanly, no raids, no indictments, just paperwork. That's the new war. He came to see me immediately. This is bigger than enforcement, he said. It's systemic. Yes, I replied. You can't intimidate zoning boards. He paced once. We lose those corridors, margins drop 15%. And he stopped, and the structure tightens. There it was. He was thinking survival, not ego. Then tighten, I said calmly. He studied me. No retaliation. With what? I asked. Anger. He exhaled slowly. Influence, I added, not fear. He adjusted course within a week. Political donations, legal ones, community programs, affordable housing partnerships, visible legitimacy. Within months, rezoning shifted slightly, not perfectly, but enough. He didn't win by force. He survived by integration. That's evolution. That winter, I felt the cold deeper than usual. Doctor said nothing alarming, but age speaks softly before it speaks loud. One night, I called Dante over. No emergency, just timing. We sat in the living room where so many power decisions had once been made. You're past proving yourself, I told him. He didn't respond immediately. I know, he said finally. You're not running my empire anymore. He looked at me. You're running yours. That mattered because inheritance is temporary, ownership is earned. A week later, I stopped attending operational briefings entirely. No advisory role, no oversight, just distance. He didn't falter, didn't spiral, didn't overcorrect. That told me everything. Years earlier, I feared irrelevance. Now, I understood it differently. Relevance that refuses to fade becomes obstruction. Relevance that steps back becomes foundation. And foundations don't need applause, they just hold. One spring morning, I stood on the balcony again, older hands gripping the railing. Harlem below, louder, shinier, different, but stable. No motorcycles lingering. No patrol cars idling suspiciously. Just motion, continuous motion. Dante's system wasn't feared, it was embedded. That's far more durable. My heart beat steady. Mechanical assistance still humming quietly. I closed my eyes and listened to the city. No tension, no gathering storms, just life. That's when I knew. The legend didn't survive because it fought every battle. It survived because it chose which battles to end. And 10 years later, the throne wasn't defended, it wasn't stolen, it evolved, it wasn't dramatic. No storm, no sirens, no last-minute confessions, just a Sunday morning. Soft light through the curtains, May humming in the kitchen, coffee brewing. I woke up before the alarm like I always had. Habit outlives necessity. For a moment, I just listened. The city outside wasn't tense anymore. No engines idling too long. No coded knocks at strange hours, just traffic. Laughter somewhere down the block. A delivery truck reversing. Normal, that's what we fought for in our own complicated way. Normal, my chest felt different, not pain, not tightness, just distance, like the rhythm was farther away than usual. The pacemaker ticked steady, but something deeper felt tired. I sat up slowly, looked around the room. No regrets waiting in the corners. That surprised me. Men like me expect ghosts at the end. I didn't see any, only memory. Dante had called the night before, nothing urgent, just an update about a property acquisition finalized cleanly. Community board approved, investors satisfied, no headlines. He didn't need advice. He just wanted to share the win. That's leadership. Not dependence. Continuity. I stood and walked to the balcony one last time, slow steps, measured. The railing felt cool under my palms. Harlem stretched out below, different from the one I inherited, different from the one I ruled, but stable. Glass towers catching early sunlight. Old brownstones still standing proud. People walking dogs where once lookouts stood. The streets didn't fear my name anymore. They didn't need to. That's growth. The young mistake fear for permanence. It is. Stability is, and stability had outlived me. May stepped onto the balcony behind me. You're up early, she said. I've always been early, I replied softly. She studied me carefully. Wives know before doctors do. You okay? I nodded, I think so. That wasn't fear in my voice, just acknowledgement. The kind you reach after decades of noise. Back inside, I sat in my chair. The same one where negotiations happened, where wars were prevented, where succession was shaped. I looked at the walls, no trophies, no weapons displayed, just family photos. That was intentional. Empires don't belong in frames, families do. My heartbeat felt slower now, not erratic, just easing, Like a car coasting toward a stoplight it knows will turn red eventually. May was still in the kitchen. Elisha was grown now, living downtown, building her own life untouched by the weight I carried for years. That mattered most. The line was clean, protected, free. There's a moment near the end. No one talks about it, when your body asks a simple question. Are you still holding on because you must or because you're afraid to let go? I listened carefully. There was no unfinished business. No wars brewing, no betrayals festering. Dante had built something sustainable. Sal was gone. The old hunters retired. The new ones wore suits and filed zoning paperwork instead of indictments. And the city was breathing on its own. I closed my eyes, not dramatically, just resting them. The pacemaker kept time, but my own rhythm felt lighter, further away. And for the first time in my life, I didn't calculate, didn't anticipate, didn't prepare. I simply allowed the moment to be what it was, quiet. May found me minutes later, still in the chair, peaceful. No struggle, no fear etched in the lines of my face, just stillness. The kind that comes when a man leaves on his own timing. At the funeral there were no headlines, no federal presence, no rival whispers, just community, old captains, young businessmen, neighbors. Dante stood at the front, not as a successor claiming a throne, as a steward honoring a foundation. He taught me, Dante said simply, that power isn't about how long you hold it. It's about knowing when to shape it into something that lasts. No embellishment, no mythology, just truth. Years later, people would speak my name occasionally, not in fear, in context, as part of Harlem's long story, and that's enough. Because legends that cling to dominance fade into cautionary tales. Legends that choose their exit become architecture. The city continued. Businesses opened. Children grew. The river kept moving east, and somewhere in the quiet rhythm of Harlem mornings, the stability remained, not because I ruled forever, but because I knew when not to.